Woohoo! It's my favorite day of the week. Happy Thursday. Feliz Quinta Feira. Woo, woo, woo. It is the day. How y'all doing? And I have to say, I am hoping y'all are going to stick around, but at the same time, I do want to remind you that the kickoff for the Expat Summit is taking place right now. So I won't be entirely offended if you have a ticket, or if you want to use this link that I'm about to drop, you want to get a ticket and go, because the summit is happening now. It's going to be amazing. I'll be speaking on Saturday, so hopefully you'll be tuning in for that. So yeah, let's see who is first in the chat. Omalayo. Hey, boa noite. Hey, one of our channel members, Steven. Hey, boa noite. Yes. Hi, Harlem Minded. How are you? Kay Renee. What's up, girl? Hey, Tanya. How you doing? Yes. Buenos noches. Let's see. I said boa noite. What's the other one? Kalinita. That's Greek. Hey, y'all are filing in. Hey, Kay Confessions. Hey, Michelle, how you doing? Hi, Michelle. Look, Michelle, Michelle. Hey, great day from Vegas. I see four now, because this is the spot. I am Krishan Wright, the founder of Blaxit Global and the host of the Blaxit Global podcast. We are officially in season 7 of the podcast. New episode drops on Monday. I'll be editing, but a new episode will be for your listening pleasure on Monday. So I'm super excited for you to listen to that. One of my faves. I mean, they're all my faves, peeps, but I'm excited for you to hear it. And some wonderful things happening in Blaxit Global Passport. We had our workshop over the weekend, and then accountability group is going to be in early February, so I can at least get that in before I take off on my 1-month holiday. So I haven't quite decided how this is going to happen, but that is not a today problem. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Oh my gosh. I thought my brain was going to be fried because I have so much stuff that I kind of like, I don't know how to say blew off. Okay, maybe the word is blew off. And I'm like, I got to pay attention to some things. And then my teacher, my Portuguese teacher was like, we're going to have a test. And today was the last test before the final. And the final is in 2 weeks. And so when I pass the final, right, because yes, we get into existence, when I pass the final, I will have my certificate and pass A1, A2 Portuguese, which also puts me like one check towards eventual citizenship, right? Serves for permanent residency, because when you're a permanent resident, you also need to know the language, and citizenship. And I was like, boo. I got to get this out the way now. So I'm actually really glad I did, because I am now interacting differently with my environment. Like, I am watching the news more, paying attention to the ticker. I'm understanding what I'm seeing. Some things are coming to me a lot easier where I can make inferences. But it's been really, really fun. It's been fun. So I won't miss going to school every day, because I was like, ooh, good thing they make you do that when you're young. Because now I'm older and I'm like, some days I just want to be in my house for like 3-4 days, But 2 more weeks and then I'll have my life back. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I did well on the test. Last test I did very well. I'm pretty confident about this one. I may have gotten like 3 wrong. 3 where I'm like, and then 1, I like completely made up a word. It was, well, I looked it up and it actually was a word, but like it was a word. Okay, I'll tell you real quick. We had to take words and do a crossword puzzle, and the words were in plural form, and then we had to turn them into singular form and then solve for the missing word. So then it was this word I had never seen before. And I was like, oh, I don't know what this means. And so how am I going to know what the singular is? And I'm like, oh, so luckily, even though I couldn't figure out the word, I know some of the derivatives of Portuguese, especially when you get into like plurals and stuff like that, draw from Latin. And so like these weird rule changes. And so this one word in particular, I was like, oh, so okay, I know another word that does this thing, this funky thing. So I was like, and that ends in A-O. So I'm like, maybe the word is L-E-A-O. Boom. I looked up after, I was right. And then come to find out, the word was lion. As in Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. Okay, I'm being silly. I'm being silly. Hey, Maureen's in the house, another channel member in the current episode of the Blaxit Global podcast. So if you haven't listened to her awesome episode, she's the one that kicked off season 7, y'all. Get down, get down, get down. Hey. I'm so happy that you're here and that you kicked off season 7. I'm so happy. And then, I'll keep saying it all the time. 5 years of Blaxit Global. Yay. I'm happy. The ABX girl said, wow. Yeah, I know Darth Vader and his homies are coming back on Monday. Yeah. But you know what? Be like Michelle. Sit this one out. Yeah, when they go low, take it to the flow. That's what we got to do. Tune out, be like, hey, that's it. Let's see. Yeah, relax, relate, release. Hey, Jess is in the house. Yeah. Definitely do a lot of self-care this weekend, y'all. Part of that self-care is going to the Expat Summit, because do something that gets you closer to where you want to be, right? Like watching me, listening to the Blaxit Global podcast, taking part in the Expat Summit. Like keep feeding your mind with positive energy, because you need that to combat the billionaire boys club that's about to do its major heist. I mean, like I was talking to my mother today, and I was like, wow, this is like a heist, like the Billionaire Boys Club. And like we're all watching a heist. Interesting. Aw, hey. I'm so happy. And I can't wait to see you. Hey. How you doing? I knew who that was. How are you? Yes. Hey, Chanel. I know. Yes, go to an MLK march. They should have postponed the tomfoolery of this like sham election inauguration because of MLK Day. And then my mother told me something like they were going to put the flags that are down because of Carter's death back up for the inauguration. But I got to tell y'all, the tomfoolery is a lot easier to watch when you have some distance, as in 3,500 miles of ocean. Just saying, get you some space, get you some distance, get on a plane. Like I said, put things in your ears, in your line of sight, so that you are not consuming all of that foolishness. It's even when I just realized when I was cleaning the kitchen before I came in here, I was like, oh, when I'm away on vacation, I'm doing like a real deeper digital like cleanse, like a digital detox. And I haven't done like a protracted one. I do cleaning. I do purgings periodically, but not like I'm going to shut this off and detox, right? And I think now more than ever, we will need that because you're going to be inundated with foolishness. Either foolishness that he did, foolishness the homies did, his little minions, right? You just can't. It's exhausting. And so you just have to remember. Hey, Evelyn, we're gonna be talking about Panama today. Yes, I know it certainly is. Yes, I feel the same way. Right? Tune that out. What on inauguration day? Ooh, freeze them out. Freeze them out. Freeze them out. I know, but they should. I mean, Constitution, Schmonstitution. They tried to storm the Capitol. Right? Not to mention a lot of the founding fathers, most of the founding fathers owned slaves. So I'm figuring this piece of paper ain't worth a whole lot no more. Because I'm like, let me not digress. Because I could easily go on a tear. Let me not. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Right? I know. Hey, Action BJ's in the house. Hey. Okay, y'all. All right, 12 minutes and I gotta start talking about the topic. Because I gotta go to bed. Got more visitors. And I was out late last night because one of our Blaxit Global Passport members is in town. And so I got to meet her in person. We had dinner. And so it was very, very lovely. But I came home very, very late. And then I had my test today. And I did not study. I was studying on the bus on the way to school. Ooh, baby. Mm-mm-mm. Anyway. Hey, Meriton, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, Wesley. Yes, yes. Malcolm has said, he said, we're living in the upside down. I feel that way. I feel that way. We're living in the upside down. So, topic of today is to talk about countries that you should consider thinking twice before moving there, right? Because one of the things, like, I've been entrenched in this life for several years, and I'm always posting in the group. We have workshops, we do all these things in Blaxit Global Passport to get our members out. Many of our members last year, it was a record number of members last year, got their residencies. Yay! Some have gone to new countries, like Maureen, who we talked to in the season 7 premiere of the podcast. And so now, right, like with none of us really saw coming because we thought it was going to be a different outcome of the presidential election, we're faced with the reality of the return. So it's so terrible. I'm choking. So, excuse me. Oh, hey, how are you? So with Darth Vader's return, and already like not even in there, right, on the squawk box, there's been a shift, right? And we saw the shift coming because I've said this numerous times, is that the US and a lot of Americans think this way, right? Because we've been indoctrinated that the US is the sun and the other countries are planets that revolve around it. When in actuality, like when I watch the news, I mean, if they talk about America, well, now they're talking about a little bit more because you know who, but before it would just be about shooting, but long form content about other countries. And I have to say, my acumen, my understanding of political changes in the global universe has grown a lot since living in Europe, right? And so as Darth Vader prepares to get into the Death Star and go reclaim. I can barely say it. Anyway, with that coming, there are things that you need to consider and countries that you should reconsider. Okay, let's get that out. Okay, so I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm going to tell you what they are. Okay, so Mexico, right? Shouldn't be any surprise. Him in Mexico, he talks about Mexico just as much as he talks about Obama. I mean, build a wall, calls them all type of names. Thankfully, this time, they now have a female president who is ready to go toe to toe, right? So I'm excited about that. But consider Mexico. We'll talk about these at length, but I don't want to bury the lead. Panama, right? Now, some of y'all might say, why Panama? I'll get to Panama. I know we have Evelyn in the comments. It'll be interesting to get some real time feet on the street, like opinions. So I'm excited about that. But that's another one. Spain, neighbor to Portugal. But if you've been paying attention to the news, and like I said, I'm so entrenched that I automatically assume everybody is as deep into this as I, but that's why I was like, oh, you know what? I should talk about these things because sometimes people don't know. They're busy living their lives and they're not thinking about these things. They may be still caught in the euphoria and the excitement of the move and all of the logistical things, but not paying attention to like the geopolitical things. So Spain is on the list. And surprise, surprise, Portugal. And you know I'm joining you from Portugal. So we'll be talking about that. Canada. I know, neighbor to the north. Yes, Canada. Let's think twice about that too. And then, I don't know, we're going to put a little bonus in there. Not that many people intentionally move there, although people do to teach. So we can put an asterisk on China, I think for obvious reasons, right? Okay. All right. So I'm going to star some of these comments. Thank you, Chanel. Yeah, I got this little glow. Thank you. That's because I moved my camera or things and probably got a little shine on my nose. Hey, Kimberly. So yeah, let's start. Mexico, right? Why? A lot of Black Americans have been moving to Mexico for years and living their best lives. A lot of those people have been, not a lot of those people, but some of those people, rephrase, have been guests on the Blaxit Global podcast and have shared their amazing stories about how they've been able to reclaim their health, deepen their relationships, right, with people, right, and humanity, learn more about the Mexican culture, deconstruct, right, and dissect different things that they've been told, right, through American propaganda and the media about Mexico, and they are thriving. But there's also another side to that, right? And I'm not going to go into like, the cartel and all that other stuff because again, I mean, look, what did I say? $1 billion heist. What's the difference? What's the difference between Darth Vader and the cartel? But anyway, like I said, I won't digress. The thing that you have to keep in mind is, like I said, with his return and then now a new president, and we all know Darth Vader is a misogynist, that there's going to be heightened false bravado, idle threats. And we've seen it before he's even assumed the office, right? And the other thing to consider is in 2022, when the market was doing some real, had a lot of tumult, and there was some changes afoot with respect to tech. So tech was doing a lot of layoffs. Those people had severances. A lot of them relocated to Mexico to lower their cost of living, but also to stay closely on time zones and be digital nomads. Well, what did that mean? Gentrification, right? So things became increasingly more expensive. And not only that, we saw a lot of not so nice behavior because that's what happens when Americans go places, act like they have no home training because, remember, US is the sun, other countries of the planet. And so if you've spent any time online and looking at these videos as much as I have, you've seen bad behavior and people telling, Mexican people to turn down their music, stop talking so loud, all of these things that are just disrespectful, out of pocket, etc. And so there has been an increase in tensions. So that is why I say you might want to reconsider moving in 2025. Now, I'm not saying entirely, right? I'm just saying 2025 because Darth Vader is he's predictably unpredictable. And we got to see how this is going to play out, right? We just got to see how it's going to play out. But like I said, that's just my opinion. I have plans to travel to Mexico, right? This year. And that's the other thing that I wanted to consider is that I don't know, I haven't been as close to this, but again, when you go, and this is pretty much true of a lot of the countries that I'll be talking about, is the effects of over tourism. And so that is just where we have to really think carefully. We're all experiencing the effects of global warming, right? At its worst, we're seeing what's happening with the California wildfires. And, at best, there's kids that enjoyed a little snow in Atlanta and Florida, right? But it's still impacting us, right? Whether we like to admit it or not. And so these are the things that you have to really think about when you're moving abroad. Doesn't mean that's going to be your forever place, but this is our forever planet. So we have to be more careful about what we're doing. Oh yes, I did intentionally leave out Greenland because I don't know anybody who moved to Greenland. So I didn't want to throw it in there, but yes, I do totally understand. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I know why he's messing with Greenland, but we won't go into that tonight. So next on the list, and Evelyn, if you want to chime in, I would love your opinion on this as well. Panama, like Panama. Now, I have talked about Panama so many times, and I will admit, Panama was on my consideration list long, long, long time ago. It didn't get down to like the nitty gritty countries, but that pensionado program, baby, that sucker is amazing, right? You don't have to be you don't have to be like New Zealand, right? You have to be like 60, 65 to retire. And there are so many things that are discounted deeply with the pensionado program in Panama. It is so attractive, very attractive. So if you are looking at a country or looking to move to a country that's beautiful, that has a low cost of living, that has an attractive visa scheme, do not sleep on Panama. However, what country is in the ire of Darth Vader? Panama. Panama ain't bothering nobody. I don't even think Panama and Costa Rica don't have an army. I'm pretty confident they don't. Because I remember those countries in particular had decommissioned their military and reallocated that money to benefit their citizens. What a novel idea. You mean not a country that puts most of their money into defense spending? Maybe if you stop pissing off other countries, you wouldn't need that. That's an idea. Anyway, I digress. But Panama is a beautiful place. However, he's trying to talk about taking the canal back and now getting into a pissing match with Panama. Now, I've not been to Panama. Like I said, I've heard it's beautiful. I've not been. Um, but again, it's one of those that you're like, "Hmm, let's see how this plays out." Like, meaning, will there be an anti-American sentiment? Because I have to say, when I traveled during the Obama administration versus when I was traveling to other countries during Darth Vader's first inhabitate, when he first inhabited the White House, uh, there's a different, there's just a different feel depending on where you are in the world, right? And so I just want to like keep an eye. Oh, that's right. We can't forget that, right? The muskrat. That's right. The muskrat. That's right. And so it's something to keep in mind. So Lori said the monster defaulted on a loan in Panama, and they took his name off the tallest tower in the country. Wow. Yeah, he does. He's a petulant child. I mean, most malignant narcissists are, but yeah, he's especially so. But oh, I did not know that. Yeah, not surprised, not surprised. But this is what he said. He said his second term was going to be like getting even with all the people who did him wrong, tried to put him in jail. But now he's going in as a felon. Hmm, hmm, hmm. Right? So yeah. So with that, it's like think twice about Panama because like I said, you may not have to wait the whole year for these countries, but at least wait a little bit, right? We just got to see how these things play out. Pinky said Panama and the rest of the world is completely out of fucks to give. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like we are not our government. But that said, on the global stage, outside of the countries that I've talked about, there's a lot of tumult that's brewing, right? There's been a global shift. And so we see, countries that I've talked about before as great plan B options, like Georgia, the country of Georgia, having issues, right? Mozambique is having a lot of issues right now, right? There's just, you can almost pick a lot of countries, unfortunately. And there's either things that are brewing or obviously, all out war. And we don't have a crystal ball to understand what Darth Vader's impact is going to be in these areas or none, right? Um, and then, there's China, right? There's China, which was my little asterisk. But the tariffs, that's going to be huge. And for those of you who either are currently abroad, like VC in the chat, and live in Europe, the dollar is way stronger than it has been in a long time. It went up to 98 cents the other day up against the euro, which is great for me as somebody who has money in USD and spends money in euro. Euro is a stronger currency. But when there's parity, right, that's like, woo, hoo, hoo, dollar for dollar, baby. So it's great for Americans living abroad. But again, the good times aren't going to last forever. And so when you think about like China's economy has been quite fragile, even coming out of COVID, they were the longest to stay, under quarantine and things like that. And then obviously with different sanctions, tariffs, you name it, there's going to be some ongoing, not just churn, but it doesn't wouldn't surprise me if there's like tit for tat, right, between these countries. Then there's also Taiwan that's in the mix, right? So these are just things that you have to pay attention to. And like I said, the reason why I mentioned China is because sometimes Americans like to go over and teach English as a foreign language to Chinese students, and that's usually how they get to China. And again, just think about the relations, because God forbid, right, anything happens, you just want to be able to be in a space where, we have some level of diplomatic ties, right? We don't want it to be where these two countries are locking horns and then, we as citizens become pawns in the middle. And so diplomacy goes out the window, but there's still lives that hang in the balance, right? We're seeing this, going on and playing out now, right? With Israel and Gaza and the potential ceasefire, right? It's like, oh, where we got a ceasefire, no, it's falling apart. There's still Palestinians that are dying in the process, right? And so these are the things that we have to think about. We have to think bigger, and we have to think about not only our respective move, but the impact of that move. Let's see. Oh yeah, he's already taking credit. Yep. But my mom reminded me today because the same thing happened with Carter and Reagan. Yeah. Reagan came in office and poof, look, we're out of war. I was like, you know, history is cyclical. Okay, so Canada, neighbor to the north. Woo! For those of you who have homes, have people that have homes, that work at Home Depot, like wood is about to get real expensive. I'm like, what did Canada do to you? Ran out poor Justin Trudeau, although they want his ass out. I mean, he thought he could save it when he went over there to kiss the ring. Justin, you should have sat that one out. So maple syrup, wood. There's part of the electrical grid as well, that, our neighbors to the north provide electricity to a lot of Americans. And it's like oil. There's a, like, I scratch my head. But I mean, if you think about it, Darth Vader's like a mediocre white man who bullied his way right through life and all the way up to the highest office in the land. And so it doesn't surprise me that these nuances are lost on him. Like all things are lost at him. Look at his cabinet picks. It's pretty awful. And so, yeah, as a result, Canada is one on the let's see how this plays out first. Why? Because if for some reason, right, these countries lock horns, and it's like, oh, I'm going to raise, the price of this. At the end of the day, who pays? Obviously, we know Darth Vader's not going to pay. He don't even pay his damn taxes, right? So it's not that's going to happen. It's going to be the average person in between, whether it be on the Canadian side, whether it be on the American side. And my point is, if you, American, take your butt over to Canada and now live as a Canadian, and when you made your move abroad budget, you were thinking one way, and now things have gone up exponentially, those are the things that's why I'm saying some of this stuff you need to kind of wait and see how it plays out. Wait and see, and you can do some proactive things. And I won't go into all of those right now, but melon felon. I love it. I love it. Love it. Yes, a lot of exactly the Handmaid's Tale. Yes, yes. And look, during slavery, a lot of people went up north, right? Canada has been a haven. I remember when I started Blaxit Global in 2020, we had an attorney from Canada who had reached out and was providing pro bono immigration services to our members that were interested in relocating. You know, Canada's always been, you know, a good neighbor to the north. And so why we want to go and start some shit, I don't know. I don't know. I'm perplexed. I'm perplexed. Uh, let us pray. Let us pray. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Melon Felon. I love it. Yes. 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 Let's see. I'm trying to. Oh my gosh, you guys are so funny. Okay. Let's see. We talked about oil. Yeah. That is one of the other reasons why I am going hard on my Portuguese. Very few people know I'm in my immediate area, right? Know I'm an American. I'm not trying to. That's why I'm trying to get the second passport. What? I'm not trying to claim her. No, no, no. If the Statue of Liberty could get up and get herself up out of there, you know she would. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I'm not trying to claim her. No, eu falo português. I might need to make up a village or some shit. Change my name to Mafalda. What? I'm like, I'm trying to blend in, okay? No, they can be like, I'm like, no, no, no. Okay, I messed up my curls. Yeah. And this is what we have to do. Pop that popcorn, sit our asses down and sit this shit out, right? We did what we were supposed to do. We came 80% deep, strong, men, women, in between, right? And did our duty. We tried to save them from themselves. And they decided they wanted to vote in hate. They wanted to vote in, I'm not going to say the word because then YouTube is not going to do what it's supposed to do with my video. So we're just going to dance around those words. However, you know what they voted in. You know what they voted in. Yeah. So we talked about Canada. We talked about Mexico. We talked about Panama. Spain. Okay. So Spain, not very far from where I am, right? 2.5 hours to the Spanish border. Spain, now over the summer, actually, I went to Spain in September, but before I did my little run over the border over to Spain for the first time, I had some second thoughts. And the reason for that was over tourism, right? So post-pandemic, of course they come up with all these names for these different phenomena, but you saw a lot of people descending onto Europe in countries like Portugal, Spain, Italy, And what you're seeing, and there's, obviously others, but what you're seeing are growing tensions between the locals and tourists. Because tourists are coming over, and they're not showing the country respect, either, doing a myriad of things, right? Not trying to learn the language, disrespecting landmarks and things like that. We've also seen that in Mexico, and other countries as well. And so what happened in Spain, I guess they decided to take a page out of the French, because the French, I mean, hands down, I mean, they know how to protest. They know how to tell you when they don't like something. So what started happening with the Spanish, they were getting water guns and spraying people with water. They were doing some of everything, right, to tell tourists to go home, and writing it in English, right? So they made sure they knew who they were speaking about. Um, and so a lot of people have had to think twice about going to Spain. What does that mean for you if you're considering moving to Spain? Again, one of the ways in which you can kind of, and I guess this gets into like the proactive stuff you can do, is start to learn the language. I'm not saying be fluent. I am not fluent in Portuguese at all. I can get through about a 10, maybe 15-minute conversation. Like today, I went to the dentist and I was there for over an hour, and we were doing part of the, time in English, part of the time in Portuguese. He was impressed that I had so many, knew so many words. And then, we're like, oh, when I see you in, a couple months, you're going to have more vocabulary. But that's what you should try to do. Aspire to either be conversational or a level before that, right? Prior to where, I mean, I think I'm in between conversational and transactional. I'm definitely transactional Portuguese. And so that layer deeper is conversational, where you can hold a conversation, initiate a conversation. I've not yet gotten to that part yet. I'm definitely more of someone asks me a question, I can more or less answer, but I'm not one to initiate a conversation, primarily because I can only go so far in the conversation. So those are some of the things that you can do to insulate yourself from what potentially could be, right? Blowback, ire directed at Americans, because they see it as part of the problem, right? Love it or leave it, capitalism runs free, right? Free market economy. In America. And so people are coming over with these higher salaries or bigger nest eggs in comparison to the countries and the locals that live there, and creating these disparities. And they're getting priced out. And that's some of the tensions that you're seeing play out in Portugal, right? For people who have been paying attention, there's a growing, the Shake-Up Party is growing. They've gotten more seats, and so I watched a video on the news the other day. They are hitting hard on immigration, and who are they taking? A page out of whose playbook? Darth Vader. So you're going to see these more conservative, right wing, party leaders in some of these countries. You're going to see more of a shift towards, authoritarian rule. And so as you start to see these shifts globally, you also have to think more strategically, let's say, about where you want to place yourself. It's not going to be, and that's why I say be clear on your why. It's not about running from America. It's about going to what you want for your life. And in doing so, I don't want you to not go, right? I just want you to think through not just the physical and logistics of getting somewhere, but setting yourself up to be in a position to live your best life and live out the things that you want for your life, right? And I'm not saying, all of these things are that we're talking about are macro level issues. These are things that are out, primarily out of our control, at least on the geopolitical front. But nevertheless, they impact us, right? And so we need to be aware, so that we can have a position about it, so that we can have thoughtful and engaged dialogue about it. Because if we don't start talking, we're all on this planet, right? We are all here, whether we like each other or not. And so the sooner we go about finding more things that are in common than things that separate us, the better off we will be. And this move towards, nationalism and, gosh, all of this, the religious stuff that's going on in America, it's like, mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. It's on the precipice. It's on the precipice. But again, it's not to deter you from moving. It's not to dissuade you. It's just to get you to stop and think twice about all of these things that I laid out. And then there's other things that you'll do in your own research, right? This is just to be a primer, if you will. Okay, I've been talking for a lot. Yes, that's right, right? Nomadic capitalists said, go where you are treated best. Yes, it is. It is. They are. Uh, very true. Very true. Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, yeah. Oh, trust me, that is not lost on me. Okay. The colonizers being colonized, right? It's like, you did not, y'all ancestors did not think it through. But ours did. Just saying. Just saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I think it's like I'm not entrenched in the political arena in Portugal at all, right? Like I'm not in it the way I was in it in the US. I worked in politics for 10 years. I was a lobbyist. Like I was in, right? And even when I was out, I was still in. I don't I don't want that. I need a break from that. Even when it comes to like American stuff, like I voted, I've advocated for voting, I've advocated for voting abroad, like the whole thing, and I will continue to do so. But I'm not going to be like dialing numbers and knocking door to door and doing all this other stuff. There's a level, right? There's levels to this. So there's ways in which you can engage and still be comfortable. I cannot vote in Portugal. I am not a citizen. And so for me, just kind of keeping a cursory idea and view as to what's happening and what could impact me is about as deep as I want to go. I need to just know that it exists, something I kind of be aware of, but not something that I'm devoting a lot of time to be preoccupied with. Mm-mm. No. Mm-mm. Yeah. That's right. That's right. I'm gonna mind my black business. That's what I'm gonna do. Uh, thank you. So this is from Kim. Thank you so much for leading and fostering such thoughtful conversation about pivotal considerations when thinking of moving abroad. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Yes, it can be scary, but you can do scary things. You can do scary things. And so again, like listen up democracy, it's not to say don't move, right? It's not to say don't. It's to say you're going to need to do some research, right? So whether you when you're on your scouting trip, because I'm a big advocate of scouting trips. And speaking of scouting trips, our Nomad Noir scouting trip is happening in spring. We do have one slot that opened up, but it might be like too last minute. So if somebody has the money and they want to have the seat, they can. But I'm not gonna like open up the list and like do a big blast or anything about it. It's just it is what it is. But it's to say when you're on your scouting trips, you're going to need to think more about these things, right? So how does that look? Not instead of, let's say, in addition to researching about neighborhoods, you know, but again, like I said, if you choose to be in a very local neighborhood, what does, the footprint that you bring, what does impact does that have? What can that look like? For me, I live in Portugal. I live in this beautiful apartment. My landlords are Portuguese. I do not rent from a foreigner, right? I choose to rent from a Portuguese person, couple, actually, and their cousin is the realtor, right? And so, even it's not to say that you have to get the least expensive apartment and live off of water and dust, right? I'm not saying that at all, right? Live your best life. What I'm saying is be intentional about how you spend your time, how you spend your money, how you engage with the system, because regardless of whether or not you can vote, like I pay taxes. So I do have some skin in this game. I have permission to live here. I don't need to be like as deep in it because, like I said, I can't vote or anything. But I just kind of want to know in the background, like, is this something I really need to pay attention to right now? Or is it something that I can just kind of like tune out? For the most part, it's something I can tune out. I don't know that much of the language, right? But is this something that I may need to consider when it gets towards that 5-ish year mark, when I'm ready to consider, going all in for citizenship? Like I said, all of these things that are happening, no one has a crystal ball. Is it possible that the right wing party can win a bunch of seats and then it from my I wouldn't say utopia, but that my experience here changes and may have an impact on whether or not I pursue citizenship? It could happen. I don't know, right? Would it be the end of the world? No, but it would be a great disappointment, that's for sure. But I would rather kind of keep a pulse as to what's going on as I'm moving through this process rather than be blindsided at the last minute. And then it feels worse, right? The magnitude, because the stakes are so high at that point, right? I can kind of manage my expectations if I kind of keep a look at what's going on. Just like I said, just like, you know, keeping it in the background. Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. It's like I said, there's a global shift afoot. And then even when you think about, and I know Ashley in Africa has been talking about it a lot on her channel, so hopefully you all follow Ashley in Africa. Shout out to her. Talks a lot about the BRICS countries, and so the BRICS unit has been getting bigger. So for those of you who do not know about the BRICS countries, it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa were the original. Well, it was BRIC, and then they added South Africa and became BRICS. Recently, Indonesia became part of the BRICS. And I did hear the other day that Cuba became part of it. I'm not 100% sure on that last part, but I am about Indonesia. And so you're seeing more countries that are basically like putting a stake in the ground, right? And so making a clear declaration and separating from the West. Because even within the West, right, there's tumult, right? Europe did not see, as many of us didn't see Darth Vader's return coming. And Europe has some exposure, right? And so, whether the US, continues to be a part of NATO, TBD, right? Um, is there a threat to the long-standing friendly alliances between the US and Europe? Potentially, right? What does that mean for some of the countries that I mentioned? And what does that mean for Americans that live, and they have the pleasure of living in some of these countries, as long-term residents? Does the sentiment change? If that sentiment changes, where would you go next? Would you return to the US? Would you go to another country? So these are some of the things that I just want you to marinate, to think about, to give thought, right? Second thought, before you make your big commitment. At least let's let at least a quarter go by, right? Because if 2025 is still your Blaxit year, you still have 3 more quarters to get out, right? I just want you to take measured risk, right? Measured risk. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is. And even, uh, I don't want to digress because it's almost getting time for me to go. But even some of the, gosh, poor journalism, I will say, I've been seeing a lot lately. Um, and more so on like these like celebrity sites like People and things like that, where they have just these whacked out stories. There was the one lady who thought she was going to marry Brad Pitt, then another lady, wedding dress. And what I hate about these stories is, in a lot of cases, they're not giving the name of the person. They're using stock photography for the images. And I'm like, is this a real article or is this like Chat GPT? Right? Is this like misinformation? Is this something that you grabbed off of TikTok and you're trying to create it into a story, right? For the sake of consumption, right? So there's a lot of junk content. And then the more that AI tends to get, sharper and faster, the machine learning part of it all, it gets scarier, right? I've even seen AI on these dating profiles. I'm like, bro, you don't look like that. Like first couple pictures, and it's like, wait, you like, ooh, Idris, Aaron Pierre, and then you're like, Patrick Ewing. I'm just saying. No offense, Patrick. But I'm just saying, right? These are some of the things that you have to think about with respect to news and who your sources are. For the 2 years before I moved abroad, I stopped really consuming American content, news, and I was going to Reuters, BBC. I would just look for Al Jazeera. Like I would look for news sources outside of the US because I knew um, I wasn't getting, news that I could trust. And even here, as I watch the news, like I don't watch, very rarely do I watch CNN Portugal. Only time I really watched CNN in Portugal was when I was on CNN Portugal. But other than that, no, I watch like RTP, some of the other local channels. If it's something big, then I like pop over to CNN. But really, you just have to think about like who your sources are. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Canadian news, a whole bunch of things. It will, when you listen to news from other countries, and I used to do that on my Google Home or my Alexa, I would just, reprogram it to get me, that would be my feed. Man, like just your knowledge base will improve dramatically. And then sometimes what I would do is like compare and contrast. I would like listen to different things that would happen, especially like there was a UN assembly meeting or something like that. And then listen to or watch World News Tonight, like the air on ABC, which glossed over like the meaty parts. And I'm like, this is why Americans fall for sound bites. This is how people like Darth Vader are able to come in, because there's a concerted effort to dumb us down. It has been long time, right? For a long time. And this is the outcome. And so what we have to do is we have to be smarter about how we're choosing our content, how we're educating ourselves, definitely about how we're educating our children and the next generations, and disengaging. We're just going to put the cape down, sit this one out, let it play out. I know it's going to be hard for some of y'all, but you're going to have to let it play out, right? Michelle letting it play out. She didn't even go to Carter's funeral. She's like, Barack, you on your own. I ain't sitting next to Orangina. Nope. Because she was like, look, my resting bitch face don't rest. That's what happened. Yeah, I would say, I said Reuters. I did Reuters and the BBC. Those were the two main ones when I was in the States. Yeah, they own a lot. There's a lot of media consolidation. Definitely pay attention to that as well. A lot of media consolidation. Yeah. Independent news. I mean, that's why podcasts are so great and they've taken off, because people want to hear real opinions. I give my real opinion, right? N of one. It's not a corporation who's telling me I have to spin something a certain way in order for you to click on this video or listen to the show, or I have a particular angle with my guests. It's very organic, right? And so that's the thing that you have to understand. Yeah, and especially when you're consuming content on social media, the more you consume the type of content, the more it will show you. Case in point, I have played that Aaron Pierre, that's Mufasa video probably more times from the Jennifer Hudson show, probably more times than I care to admit. That man is fine. God did his best work. So every time I now go on Facebook, what do I see? Aaron Pierre, that's my butt. Everyone. Or Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo and Wicked. Like, that is my feed, right? Because I've consumed so much that it's like, oh, she likes that, right? So if you're liking conspiracy videos on YouTube, guess what? You're going to see more of that content, right? And then because you're seeing so much of it, and these things border on truthfulness, right? A broken clock is right twice a day. Then people say, oh, wait, this one nugget of fact in between all of this other shit. No, you have to use critical thinking, right? And this is on us, right? As humans, as the machines start to take over, right? That's the reality of it. Okay, I think we're almost about to wrap this up. Let me just look and do a quickie look. I talked about everything, right? I talked about Portugal, talked about Canada, I talked about Panama, I talked about, right, Portugal, Canada, Panama. Talked about Mexico. I don't think I left any out. Y'all tell me. Did I leave any out? That somebody was like, Oh, she said this and then didn't come back to it. Tell me now. Let me see. Uh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Cheeto Satan. Lovey's funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. And then, you guys might have some other ones that yeah, I talked about, yeah, Spain. Yes, and see, locating cozy is in Spain, right? So that's another one. And watch her channel and subscribe to her YouTube channel, y'all. Um uh thank you. Thank you. He is fine. He is gorgeous. Oh my gosh. I'm like, if I were 20 years younger. Oh yeah. Yeah. The French, that is how you protest. I mean, Americans should pay attention, right? Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Let's see. I think I got to. Uh, mm, yeah, I don't know. Oh, yes. Yes, Phyllis. It's for Portugal. It's Lisbon. So it's 10 days, March 21st to the 31st in Portugal with me as your fairy scout mother. It is. Let's see what else. What else we got? Okay, answered that. Okay. Is that it? I think we did. Oh yeah, I know. Look, vote with your wallet. Vote with your wallet. Thank you, Jess. All right, y'all. I'm about to go to bed. I have a visitor coming in the morning, so I need to get my sleep. This was great. So happy that we could talk tonight. Hopefully, this dialogue was helpful to you as you're considering your move. And like I said, I just wanted to focus on those countries that are top of mind right now. But the topics that I mentioned about over tourism, thinking about trade and those implications, tariffs, the shift, right, in the kind of pushback from a lot of the countries with respect to the West. These are all things that you need to consider. And he's going to show out. And so will there be, anti-American sentiment as we move about abroad, right? Because it's more about your nationality when you move abroad, less about your color. Yay. You're welcome. You're welcome. So you can drop me an email at info@blaxitglobal.com and I can get that to you. So, all right, y'all. Listen to the Blaxit Global podcast, Monday, new episode. Definitely join me for those of you who have your tickets on Saturday. I'll be speaking at the Expat Summit. I'm really, really thrilled. So tune in for that talk. And that's it. Boa noite. Ciao, ciao. See you next week. All right.